Und wie habe ich das in den letzten Tagen gesagt? Jetzt darf auch mal Rambo Zambo im Adler.
Germany's conservative bloc emerged as the largest party in Sunday's federal election, surpassing the far-right AfD. Despite this, the AfD's growing presence is reshaping the political landscape. With Friedrich Merz likely to become the next Chancellor, questions arise about his ability to lead a coalition government in the face of rising far-right influence. The AfD's surge has sparked concern in Germany, where many are uneasy about its rise. Experts are now looking at how this shift will impact Germany's future, especially in terms of policy, unity, and European relations. Let's go over to Thomas Sparrow, the DW correspondent in Berlin, for more details.
One conclusion is that Germans voted for change. The three parties that until November last year formed the governing coalition, the collapse of which actually led to Sunday's vote, lost in support compared to previous elections in 2021. And for the Social Democrats that have led the federal government under Olaf Scholz, it was their worst result ever. And for the very first time, they're going to actually be third in the federal parliament. Normally, as a historical party, as a big party in Germany, they're either first or second, but this time they will be third for the very first time. So a bad result for them. And even if you look at the liberal FDP that were also part of the governing coalition, they didn't even get above the 5% threshold, and they will be out of parliament altogether. That's one conclusion. Germans voted for change. A second conclusion is that Germany is going to shift to the right. That has to do, on the one hand, with the fact that the conservative bloc CDU-CSU, which until now was the main opposition party in parliament, will be very probably leading the next government under Friedrich Merz. Friedrich Merz will very probably be Germany's next chancellor. But it's also because of the AfD, the far-right alternative for Germany. They doubled their result compared to 2021, a very important result for them. That's a second conclusion. The third conclusion, beyond actually party politics, is that voter turnout was very high, 82.5%. And this is seen as the biggest voter turnout since 1990. 1990 obviously being a very important year for Germany because it was the year of German reunification. So those are the three most important outcomes of Sunday's election here in Germany. What seems clear is that they will not be part of a federal government. They have said that they're willing to talk to the conservative CDU-CSU, but the conservative bloc, and in particular Friedrich Merz, the leader of the conservative bloc, have stressed that they are not willing to discuss or to negotiate with the far-right AfD. Basically, all other parties in parliament have stressed that they're not going to cooperate with the far-right party. That's what in Germany you know as the firewall. So basically for the AfD, they will cement their position as Germany's main opposition party in the parliament in coming years. And they will probably focus even more than they've done now on some of their key issues, including asking for a stronger stance on irregular migration. That has been their key issue. Something very important in that regard is that the AfD is comparatively a young party. They were actually formed in 2013, and since then they've grown and grown and grown. And for them, this is their biggest result, and it comes actually on the heels of another result a few months ago in the eastern part of the country, where for the very, very first time, they won a regional election. So for them, it is actually a very important result, and they will probably cement their status as Germany's main opposition party. Those who are in favor of that, those who actually support the AfD and who would want change, say that basically the AfD says things that as they are, that they're a fresh voice in German politics, that some of the other parties that have been there for much longer do not represent voters anymore. So there is certainly among supporters of the AfD, they are very happy about the result that they achieved. And basically what they're calling for is for the AfD to have more political responsibility. As I said, something that looks unlikely given Germany's current firewall. Those who are against the AfD having so much influence in German politics have actually gone to the streets in recent weeks, saying that firewall should be maintained, if not strengthened, saying that it's time for other parties in the democratic spectrum to be also strengthened. And basically what this tells you is that Germany is polarized and divided when it comes to the role that the AfD is going to play, not only in parliament, but also in German politics. And one important element in addition to that is that for those who are against the AfD, those who say that the AfD is actually a danger for Germany's democratic order, they normally point to the fact that the AfD in part is seen as being so extreme that it is under surveillance by Germany's domestic intelligence agency, that looks specifically at threats to Germany's constitutional order. Provided he manages to form a governing coalition, Germany's next Chancellor will very probably be Friedrich Merz from the conservative bloc CDU-CSU. He has a very big challenge ahead of him to find partners with whom he can work, and that will probably not be an easy challenge in the next few days, even in the next few weeks or months. He has indicated he would like to form a coalition by Easter. And obviously the focus is now on him, what kind of chancellor he could be. He comes actually from the western part of Germany. He's 69 years old and a lawyer, and he's been a member of the Conservative Party for a very long time. But at a young age, when Angela Merkel, the former German chancellor, was actually growing in popularity in the conservative bloc, he decided to leave active politics and rather work in business. He's said to be actually a millionaire. But when Angela Merkel stepped down, Friedrich Merz returned to active politics and then slowly but surely took control of the conservative bloc CDU-CSU. One element that is particularly important for him, one policy that is particularly important for him is migration. And in fact, he already said that when he becomes chancellor, if he becomes chancellor, he will try and have a much stricter policy on irregular migration in Germany. He is a controversial figure in the country. And one element that was particularly controversial in recent weeks was the fact that he presented a non-binding motion in parliament to have a much stricter policy on migration, for example, having permanent border checks at Germany's borders. And that motion was passed but with the votes of his party, of his bloc, and of the far-right AfD, something that was met with a lot of criticism by other parties because they were basically saying that he was tearing that firewall against the AfD down. So what we're seeing is probably a chancellor that will shift his party, his bloc to the right, away from that centrist position that we had seen under Angela Merkel. In fact, the two are not the best friends. But it is still obviously important to wait and see what kind of coalition he forms, because he will have to take into consideration the policy priorities of his future coalition partners as well.